What if I told you the person destroying your future is the one living in your mind? Here's the truth on why humans self-sabotage. We don't sabotage ourselves because we're weak. We sabotage ourselves because the identity we built in the past cannot survive the future we're trying to walk into. Your brain, even if you're intelligent, even if you're American, even if you have a powerful vision for wealth, is still a 2 million-year-old survival machine. It cares nothing about your dreams. It cares about safety, familiarity, and control. And wealth is the opposite of all three. When you attempt to step into a bigger future, more money, more visibility, more risk, more responsibility, your brain interprets it as danger. Something inside you hits the brakes. Suddenly you procrastinate. You overthink. You avoid the one action that could change everything. You tell yourself you're not ready, that you need more clarity, more time, more certainty. But it's not a lack of motivation. It's not laziness. It's your amygdala, the fear center of your brain, hijacking your entire system and dragging you back into the familiar. Because the brain would rather keep you in predictable struggle than unpredictable success. And here's the part most people never understand. The subconscious mind doesn't care if your patterns are painful. It only cares if they are familiar. So if you grew up around stress, around uncertainty, around financial instability, around criticism, around environments where dreaming too big was mocked, your brain grows comfortable with that. Struggle becomes home. Playing small becomes normal. And the moment you try to elevate yourself into abundance, the subconscious panics. It whispers, "This isn't you. This isn't safe. This isn't familiar," and so you pull back. Not because you lack ambition, but because your subconscious is more loyal to your history than your destiny. Self-sabotage is identity preservation. You have a future identity you're trying to become. Powerful, disciplined, wealthy, focused. But your old identity doesn't want to die. It fights for its survival. It makes you hesitate at the exact moment you should move. It makes you doubt opportunities that were meant for you. It makes you delay the email, skip the work, quiet your voice, dim your ambition, and shrink from visibility. Not because you can't handle success, but because success threatens the version of you that your brain has gotten comfortable with. Understand this. Your fear is not of failure. Your fear is of expansion. Your fear is of becoming someone your past can no longer recognize. Growth demands responsibility. It demands emotional tolerance. It demands you stand in places where people can see you, judge you, misunderstand you. It demands that you break the psychological ceiling your childhood built. And that is terrifying to the parts of you that were trained to play small to stay safe. This is why people who are inches away from breakthrough always collapse. They lose momentum when they're closest to success. They get overwhelmed right before the big opportunity. They suddenly feel tired, or not ready, or uncertain. Your brain is not sabotaging you to hurt you. It is sabotaging you to protect you from a future that feels too big, too different, too unfamiliar, too exposed. But here's the shift. Your mind is not a prison. It's a machine that can be rewired. You sabotage yourself when the subconscious pattern of your past feels safer than the future you are trying to create. The moment your future becomes more familiar to your nervous system than your past, self-sabotage dies. Your brain stops fighting you and starts following you. Your ambition stops feeling like a threat and starts feeling like home. You want to stop sabotaging? Then you must upgrade your identity. You must stop living from memory and start living from vision. You must stretch your emotional capacity to tolerate success, pressure, discomfort, risk, responsibility. You must normalize abundance until it feels as natural as breathing. You must sever loyalty to the old self who survived so you can become the new self who thrives. Listen to this part repeatedly. You are not fighting procrastination. You are fighting the version of you that was trained to stay small. You are not fighting fear. You're fighting an outdated survival system. You are not fighting laziness. You are fighting a subconscious that believes struggle is safer than success. The day you decide that your future deserves more protection than your past, that is the day your entire life shifts. That is the day your brain begins to work for your vision instead of against it. That is the day wealth becomes inevitable. And now that you understand the real reason behind self-sabotage, here is where everything shifts. Because knowing why you sabotage yourself is only the first awakening. Rewiring the mind is what turns that awakening into dominance. So listen carefully, because this is the part where people either rise or remain trapped. This is how you reprogram your mind for unstoppable success and build a future version of yourself that your past cannot sabotage. The first thing you must understand is this: your mind obeys repetition, not intention. You don't become the future version of yourself by wanting it. You become it by installing new patterns so consistently that your brain has no choice but to adopt them as your new identity. Identity is not chosen, it is trained. If you want to reprogram your mind, you must stop trying to feel like the person you want to become and start acting like that person until your emotions catch up. Your brain rewires through action repeated enough times that it becomes familiar. And remember, familiarity is the key. The moment your future becomes familiar, your sabotage begins to dissolve. You must also learn to create new emotional associations. Your current mind associates risk with fear, visibility with danger, ambition with pressure, discomfort with pain. To reprogram yourself, you must build new neural links. You must teach your brain that discomfort is not a threat but a signal of expansion. That risk is not danger but evolution. That responsibility is not a burden but proof that you are rising. The secret is emotional conditioning. Every time you step into discomfort without retreating, without collapsing, without negotiating with your fear, your brain learns something new. It learns that the unknown is survivable. It learns that success is safe. And you must kill the identity that's been running your life. Not gently, not slowly. You have to starve the version of you that makes excuses. You have to suffocate the voice inside you that still sees limitation as normal. You have to take every behavior that feeds your old self, hesitation, doubt, procrastination, and replace it with behavior that feeds your future. The old identity must lose its power. You cannot negotiate with the version of yourself that sabotages you. You must replace it. You must outgrow it. You must become someone whose choices are too aligned, too focused, too elevated to ever collapse into the patterns you once used to survive. To reprogram your mind, you must give your brain proof. Not dreams, proof. When you take action before you feel ready, you give the brain evidence that fear is irrelevant. When you show up on the days you don't feel motivated, you give the brain evidence that discipline is who you are now. When you make decisions from vision instead of emotion, you give the brain evidence that the future is in control, not the past. Once your brain has enough evidence, your identity shifts. You stop acting like the person you were. You start acting like the version of you who has already arrived. And here is the part most people miss. Your environment must match your future, not your memory. If your surroundings keep reminding you who you used to be, it becomes almost impossible to build who you want to become. You must upgrade your environment, your habits, your routines, your daily inputs, the people you listen to, the content you consume, until everything around you reflects the future you're building. The brain absorbs its surroundings. If your environment feeds your old identity will always win. The next level of reprogramming is vision embodiment. You must picture your future so clearly that your brain begins to accept it as reality. This is not blind manifestation. This is neurological wiring. The brain cannot distinguish between imagination vividly repeated and lived experience. When you visualize your future with clarity, consistency, and emotional intensity, the brain begins to adjust your internal thermostat. It begins to shift your self-worth. It begins to align your behavior with the version of you you're imagining. And suddenly, success no longer feels foreign, it feels expected. And finally, you must stop waiting for confidence. Confidence is not something you feel before you move. Confidence is a byproduct of movement. You reprogram your mind by walking into rooms your fear told you to avoid, by taking actions your doubt told you to delay, by becoming the person your past told you were not allowed to be. Every step into discomfort rewires you. Every moment of courage reshapes you. Every time you choose your vision over your emotion, your identity evolves. This is how you reprogram your mind. You change what you repeat. You change what you associate with fear. You change what you tell yourself is possible. You change the identity you obey. You change the evidence you give your brain. You change your environment. And you change the way you see the future until the future becomes the only version of yourself that makes sense. Until the old you feels like a distant memory. Until sabotage no longer has a home inside you. Until success feels like destiny, not luck. And once your mind is rewired, something extraordinary happens. You stop trying to become wealthy and you start behaving like someone who already is. Decisions become clearer. Discipline becomes effortless. Opportunities become visible. Fear becomes silent. Your future becomes magnetic. And the version of you who once sabotaged everything becomes irrelevant, powerless, forgotten. You rise into the identity that was waiting for you this entire time. If this shifted something inside you, then you're not done growing. There are deeper truths waiting for you here. The kind that change how you think, how you move, and who you become. If you're ready to keep evolving, stay with me, subscribe to this channel. This journey is just getting started.